Morning all. The controversial national insurance increase is set to go ahead after Boris Johnson made a firm commitment to bring it in April. After days of reportedly wobbling on the policy, the Prime Minister and the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, have said this morning that it is the right plan. So, from this April, national insurance contributions will increase by 1.25% to 13.25%. From next April, that rise will become a new separate health and social care levy. But what does that mean for your finances? Well, people earning £20,000 a year will pay an extra £89 in national insurance. For employees on £30,000 annually, they'll pay an extra £214. And for those earning £50,000, their payment will go up by £464. The government estimates that the national insurance increase will raise around £12 billion in extra funding for health and social care. Our political correspondent, Rob Powell, standing by in Westminster. Morning again, Rob. Just reading the joint bylined piece, the co-authored piece by the Chancellor and the Prime Minister. They both are at great pains to point out that they are in favour of tax cuts and that they are indeed Thatcherites, which suggests that there might be a few people within their own party considering them not to be.
Yeah, I think there is an attempt to reassure worried Conservative backbenchers who have been calling on the Prime Minister and Chancellor to act as they see it, more like Conservatives by cutting taxes and not putting them up within this piece. I think it's notable that this is a joint piece from the Prime Minister and the Chancellor. There's been weeks, really, of rumblings about a degree of divisional rift between them, especially potentially over this policy. But it is now confirmed, 1.25% for employees, but also, of course, 1.25% up national insurance for employees, for employers as well, And what they say in this piece in the Sunday Times is that we must clear the COVID backlogs with our plan for health and social care, and now is the time to stick to that plan. We must go ahead with the health and social care levy. It is the right plan. They then go on, though, this is the reassurance bit, I think. We are tax-cutting Conservatives. We are Thatcherites in the sense that we believe in sound money. There is no magic money tree. So I think that last bit's clearly designed to reassure wobbling backbenchers. I think some of the speculation about this tax rise essentially being shelved can be put down to Boris Johnson attempting to shore up his position amid all of the allegations of number 10 parties. You can probably read into it slightly that the fact that he has decided to now commit to it after a week of not explicitly committing to it suggests that he thinks he still has the political strength and authority to carry his party through this. I think it also piles more pressure, though, on the government to do something elsewhere in the sort of policy spectrum about the cost of living. Because if they're not going to axe this tax rise and energy bills are set to go up substantially in April, many will still be wanting them to put some sort of support in place to help people with everyday cost of living. It's going to be a busy week. I think you can expect potentially something on that, on cost of living. You're also going to get the Levelling Up white paper, the plan, a key part of Boris Johnson's policy offering coming on Wednesday, and plenty of movement around Ukraine and visits being made by the Prime Minister to the region and some of his senior ministers as well. So a kind of jam-packed agenda for the Prime Minister. I think on a political level, he will be happy, though, that the spotlight is on those big issues rather than necessarily accusations of number 10 parties. Of course, we're still waiting for that report from the senior civil servant Sue Gray to go to number 10 and then be published.
We certainly are. Rob, thanks very much indeed. Well, the Prime Minister is considering doubling the number of UK troops to Europe's borders as fears grow of a Russian invasion of Ukraine. Boris Johnson says his new offer to NATO will send a clear message to the Kremlin that the West would not tolerate Russia's destabilising activity if, quotes, it chooses a path of bloodshed and destruction. In a statement from number 10, the Prime Minister confirmed that the UK is considering doubling NATO troop numbers. It's also considering sending defensive weapons to Estonia, where it already has 900 military personnel, and jets, warships and military specialists to protect NATO allies. Sky's Joe Pike reports.
The war of the airwaves is almost as important as the battle on the ground. And the message in this footage from the Ukrainian military training with UK anti-tank missiles in the west of the country is of readiness. Joe Biden has now warned in a call with the country's president there is a distinct possibility of a Russian invasion next month. Boris Johnson has now announced a new offer of troops, fast jets and warships to support NATO allies. That's before the PM's call with Vladimir Putin and his trip to the region in the coming days. Mr. Johnson has said, "I have ordered our armed forces to prepare to deploy across Europe next week, ensuring we are able to support our NATO allies on land, at sea and in the air." Liz Truss, who met the NATO Secretary-General on Monday, will travel to Moscow in the next fortnight. And Defence Secretary Ben Wallace here in Berlin on Wednesday is due to visit Hungary, Slovenia and Croatia.
Frankly, I think it is reasonably unlikely that he would attempt to conquer all of Ukraine by force. The Ukrainians will fight. And as much as Putin likes to talk about the friendship, the historic links between the people of Ukraine and Russia, ever since 2014, we have seen a steady increase in, I won't say anti-Russian attitudes in Ukraine, but anti-Putin attitudes.
Whitehall may have been focused on one political crisis for weeks, but here at the Foreign Office, they've been trying to prevent another. The PM wants to be seen as a statesman, spearheading the West's efforts, but this is also a convenient distraction from domestic disarray. Boris Johnson is Vladimir Putin's fifth UK Prime Minister, and it's perfectly possible the Russian president will soon get a sixth.
As further Russian military vehicles arrive in Belarus and reports suggest blood supplies and medical equipment are among that build-up, Boris Johnson has asked his defence chiefs to finalise details of their deployment in case Vladimir Putin does what so many fear. Joe Pike, Sky News.
Busy morning on the channel. The Foreign Secretary Liz Truss is a guest on Trevor Phillips on Sunday. Sir Trev will also be speaking to the Shadow Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government, Lisa Nandy, and the Kremlin critic Bill Browder. That is starting at 8:30. A second major storm is on its way across the UK after Storm Malik left 2 dead and thousands without electricity. A falling tree killed a woman in Aberdeen and a 9-year-old boy in Staffordshire. People in Scotland and Northern England are facing more problems as Storm Carrie moves in later today. There is still a red alert from the power companies for the north of Scotland. They're dealing with 200 incidents and around 23,000 homes still without power. The latest figures from Northern Power Grid say a further 26,000 homes are without power in Northern England this morning. Also 600 reports of damage across England, with the north of the country suffering the most. Sky's Becky Cottrell reports now from Rothbury in Northumberland.
Queuing in the freezing cold for a hot meal. A local fish and chip van and its generator making sure most here were fed. Storm Malik's damage coming to Rothbury not long after Storm Arwen's brutality.
So we have had some residents yet again that have been without emergency service access via their mobiles or landlines.
There was good news though, the electricity came back.
But with Storm Corrie now on its way, this town, like so many others, is still vulnerable.
And tens of thousands of houses are still without power. Malik has battered much of northern England and Scotland. In Appley Bridge in West Yorkshire, a driver was fortunate to walk away from this. Firefighters in Greater Manchester rescued a woman from her car after a tree had crashed through its roof. But in Aberdeen, a 60-year-old woman was killed by a falling tree. Winds of more than 100 miles per hour have been recorded in parts of Scotland, with several A roads shut in Aberdeenshire and major disruption to the rail timetable. Property and power lines have been destroyed. In a statement, Northern Power Grid said, Storm Malik is causing disruption to our network as it continues to move across our operating area. Our teams are responding, restoring power through alternative routes on our network where possible, assessing damage and coordinating repairs wherever conditions permit. And now, as a new storm rolls in, there is a yellow weather warning in place for Scotland and Northern England. Becky Cottrell, Sky News, Northumberland.
Storm Corey is due to hit the UK later today, and we will, of course, keep you up to date with its progress here on Sky News. The Met Office says a low-pressure system will be bringing very strong winds to Scotland later. Gusts of 70 to 80, potentially even 90 miles an hour in exposed coastal locations and mountainous areas. Then, as Storm Corey clears to the east on Monday, the weather will remain blustery at the start of the week. I want to find out more from Jim Dale, Senior Meteorologist at the British Weather Services. Jim, great to have you on the programme this morning. Let's start with Storm Malik, shall we? Just explain exactly where you would see that as ranking in terms of the storms that we have seen over the past couple of years. People have lost their lives, thousands of homes remain without power, an awful lot of damage. But this is the time of year that we're going to get things like this. Yeah,
the winter has gone. We started with a couple of storms, as has already been mentioned, Arwen and another one that followed. And then we kind of fell into a gap, if you like, almost a sedate nothingness, where winter was passing us by and not a lot was happening. And there was always going to be a return to something of this nature once the high-pressure system that's been over us for so long moved away. It did. And these storms, Malik was actually named by the Danish Met Institute rather than our own Met Office. We had these warnings out on Thursday for this particular storm, Malik, and obviously it did its stuff on Saturday, and now we've got the next one coming in, Corey, and they look very similar on a magnitude of a scale. I don't think this is like the 1987 October storm, which ravaged the southern parts of the UK. But it's certainly, when it does the kind of damage we've seen and lives lost, then it's ranking right up there in terms of the danger and the hazards that are associated.
And of course, all of our eyes now turning to the horizon to see Storm Corey holding into view.
Yeah, to be honest with you, as a meteorologist, you look at the Malik one and you look at this one, they look the same path, the same potential wind strength. So it's not now. I mean, if people are waking up now and walking outside and what have you, they're thinking, what's going on? Because there's not a lot going on. It's again the calm before the storm. So this is really going to sort of ramp up as we go through the course of the afternoon, but particularly the evening and the overnight period and into Monday morning, as you pointed out. And that's going to be the stress period when we see the highest gusts, and particularly across Scotland, northeast England. We've got the amber warning, in actual fact, for northeast England and Scotland as a whole. It's very hard to differentiate between the different parts of Scotland, who's going to get what. But I think it's that eastern strip, certainly over the higher ground, Highlands and Grampians, and as you've mentioned already, the coastal plains, which tend to see the highest of the gusts.
Of course, we should also pay some attention to that which is happening in the United States. Yeah. Jim, whilst we've got you and your expertise, the East Coast looking pretty grim at the moment. What on earth is a bomb cyclone?
Yeah, it's the northeasterly going into the northeast parts of the United States. The clue's in the name, bomb. Everything happening at once, putting down a lot of snow. And when I say a lot, I don't just mean a couple of inches. We're talking feet of snow. So it's basically the air masses meeting essentially with a lot of moisture involved, an area of low pressure, deep area of low pressure, sitting off that northeast coast of America. So it's pushing in all the mixture, if you like, the moisture, the humidity, the content of both of those things very high, and it's just dumping lots and lots of snow as the cold air pushes in. So it's that mixture as you get that often happens. I say often, not that often that it becomes newsworthy. This is a newsworthy event, to say the least. If this was the UK, we'd be buried, and I think those northeastern states are probably seeing some of that right now.
Jim, great to have your expertise on the programme this morning. Oh, and by the way, I do love that book just over your shoulder there. Jim Dale, Senior Meteorologist at British Weather Services. Great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Well, now, let's speak to Robert Coburn. He's Emergency Response Manager for Red Cross Scotland and joins us now. Robert, again, good to have you on the programme this morning. I've got to say, you don't generally think, when you hear of the Red Cross, of them helping out in this country, but of course you do so at times of need. I mean, how bad have things been where you are?
Well, it's been pretty bad over this last kind of couple of days. But obviously, we had Storm Arwen a few weeks ago. the people are generally pretty nervous. I mean, the biggest impact we've found has been certainly from Malik, has certainly been in the north of the country. The forecast for today, is, as your chap from the Met Office has said, is kind of more widespread across Highlands, Western Isles, the Grampian, the East Coast kind of areas. So, yeah, it's been busy. We had volunteers out yesterday visiting homes in the Grampian area, handing out kind of welfare kits, and we're ready and on standby to do more today, or today and tomorrow if required.
Well, indeed, yeah, carry is on the way. And Robert, can we just be specific? What is it exactly that the Red Cross do at times like this? You kind of alluded to it there, going out, checking perhaps on more vulnerable members of the community, getting some food out to them, but I'm sure there's more than that.
Yeah, I mean, generally it kind of gets wrapped up in what we refer to as a welfare visit. So we will visit people in their homes, check that they're okay or as okay as they can be, deliver some basic supplies around kind of snacks, water, blankets, gloves, hats, these types of things. We can also work with our local authority partners who will very often, in extreme situations, they will set up what they call rest centres, where people can come, as opposed to living the storm out at home, they can come to a rest centre where, again, volunteers in there who will help people, in a more practical and more emotional support to them, so that it's about getting through the storm.
And as mentioned, Robert, another one on the way. I accidentally called it Storm Carry. I don't know why on earth I did that. I was perhaps thinking of another story, but Storm Corrie. I mean, how concerned are you?
Well, I mean, all of these things, anything that's weather, you can do your preparation, and then you just have to sit and wait see what happens when it actually hits. There's lots of things that people can do in preparing. So for this afternoon, for example, prepare to be staying at home. Don't, if you don't have to go out, then certainly don't go out. Have things like your mobile phone charged. Have available, kind of battery-powered kit like radios and torches, just in case you get a power outage. Have easy to prepare snacks in the house, bottles of water. Look out the winter downy that you might have just a spare one tucked away. Get that outside so that you can hunker down for the next kind of 24 hours if required. Keep an eye on the weather reports. They will keep you best appraised as to what's likely to happen next.
Well, Robert, wishing you and your colleagues all the best of luck as you work over the next couple of days. Robert Coburn from the Red Cross, really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
But of course, as we were mentioning just a couple of minutes ago, in the United States, a massive storm is bringing dangerous snow across the East Coast that could last for several days. Our US correspondent Greg Milam has the story.
The east coast of the United States is no stranger to extreme weather, but this is a winter storm of a strength way beyond even what they're used to. Times Square in New York blanketed in snow, and treacherous conditions stretching across 10 states, up and down the coast, an area home to 75 million people. The mayor of New York out early to record his own advice for residents.
So be careful, bundle up, good day to stay home if you don't have to go out.
It is Massachusetts being hit hardest. Isolated areas expected to get up to 3 feet of snow before this storm has passed. Couple that with wind gusts reaching hurricane force in some places. The concern that blizzards could cause whiteout conditions.
I want to make sure everyone understands this. Even though there might be a little break or you start seeing a little clearing, don't be misled by that. There could be a gust of wind that creates whiteout conditions while you're out in the store running to get that last gallon of milk you wanted to get. Hopefully everybody gets these in advance. This is not a time to be out there shopping.
The stormers hit air travel too. At a deserted Logan Airport in Boston, the departure board telling the story of some of the thousands of flights cancelled. It is areas closest to the coast that are seeing some of the worst conditions. Residents told to move to higher ground with an expectation of severe flooding. For others, there's little to do but wait it out.
Well, how I'm going to stay safe is once we get home, we want to stay in the house, put our jammies on and hot cocoa, coffee, watch some movies, relax and chill.
They call these storms nor'easters, caused by what's known as a bomb cyclone. This is the first major blizzard to hit the East Coast for 4 years, and one they won't forget in a hurry. Greg Milam, Sky News.
Vulnerable 5 to 11-year-olds become eligible today for their first COVID-19 jab. Some 500,000 children in the age bracket who are either at risk from COVID or live with someone who is will now be able to come forward and get vaccinated. Many have had to be kept isolated because the risk to them from COVID is so severe. Quick look at the latest data. 72,727 new cases were confirmed in the last 24-hour period. A further 296 deaths were recorded, taking the total number within 28 days of a positive test to 155,613. As the UK tries to reach net zero emissions by 2050, could going jet zero be the answer? An airfield in Surrey has become the UK's first flying school to offer pilot training on fully electric aircraft, with hopes that it could be the future of aviation. Sky's Shingi Marariki has been taking a look.
It's time for takeoff, but not like you've ever seen it before. Charged up and ready to go, the UK's first ever fully electric training plane. The flight school involved hope that by cutting down carbon and noise, this could be a huge leap for sustainable air travel.
The future is going electric and going green. And so, this is the first step towards a training aircraft, and it's important that people learn to fly with this, and this is going to be the new technology. So it's a conventional aircraft, so we have a central control stick here.
Sam has flown for more than 30 years, and after more than 16,000 air miles, he's never had an hour in the sky like that one. But there will be challenges.
The charging infrastructure, like it is with cars, has to be grown to make it a sustainable thing.
Electric flights like these are meant to be the future. They're cleaner, quieter, and eventually they'll be able to go further too. In the race to jet zero, commercial airliners are also exploring similar options.
That change will take some time though.
30 years away until we finish this thing properly. And engineers like me, we've got a mountain to climb to make it happen. And I can't wait to trade up to electricity, but we've got a lot of work to do. And it's something that we can and must do as well.
It might be a while until electric planes take off everywhere, but here, that idea has already arrived. Shingi Mararike, Sky News, Blackbush Airport.
So should we be expecting clear skies today? Let's find out.
Look forward to brighter skies. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Storm Corrie will bring gales to northern, western and central parts later today. There's a Met Office amber warning for wind over northern Scotland, with 90-mile-an-hour gusts possible in exposed spots. Yellow warnings are in place for other northern areas. At the moment, though, it is mainly dry, calm and frosty. The morning will stay mostly fine, but northwest Scotland, Ireland and Northern Ireland will turn windy as patchy rain moves in. There will be coastal gales in the northwest. It will be a little bit cooler. Scotland, Northern Ireland and Ireland will have a spell of prolonged rain and some mountain snow during the afternoon.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Now, we tried to speak to him yesterday, but there were a few technical issues. So we know now, return to the young man who has, quite literally, gone the extra mile to give his classmates a brand new school playground. Yesterday, six-year-old, bear that in mind, Harvey Goodman embarked on a 15-mile hike from his primary school to Old Trafford, all part of a bid to raise money for a new playground. Let's take a quick look at him reaching the finishing line. And I am very pleased to say that Harvey joins us on the programme alongside his mum, Naomi. Guys, lovely to see you this morning. Harvey, am I right in saying that you ran the last bit of the 15 miles there. Were you not tired?
No.
You weren't? Why not?
Because I was going to have a party in the hotel football.
Well, if anything is going to make you run, it's going to be the prospect of a party and a game of football. But why were you doing this in the first place? I am told it was because you wanted to get a new playground for you and your friends.
Yes.
And what type of playground do you want to get? What do you want to see in your new playground?
A sandpit. Yeah, I want to see a mud kitchen.
Yeah, that's good.
30 pipes. I need a digging area. I need a welly store. I need a hideout place in the bushes. Even I need 2 big craters.
No roller coaster, nothing like that. That might just be a little bit too dangerous, is it?
No.
No, definitely not. Well, let's have a quick word with Mum. Naomi, good to see you this morning as well. You must be so proud of this wee guy. 15 miles. And how much money have you raised so far?
We're over 7,000. I think it's 7,130 it was this morning when we last checked. So, yeah, so proud. He's done amazing. All the training that's gone into it. And then, obviously doing the big walk yesterday. It was great.
I take it he is a Man U fan.
Yeah, huge Man U fan.
Oh, dear. I knew there was going to be something that was going to take the sheen off his performance this morning. But why the need for the new playground? We tried to speak yesterday and we had some technical difficulties. We couldn't get to the... So why the need for the new playground?
I mean, obviously, playground for children is it's essential, basically, so they've got lots of things to do and go outside and stimulate the minds. And obviously, so there's a lot of things that needs doing, because at the minute, there's no playing field. It's just basically a yard, and obviously there's a football pitch there that needs resurfacing as well. So a lot of work needs going into it, really.
Yeah, well, and you will have a fantastic playground as a result. I'm sure the money will continue to go, and we'll talk about the Just Giving in just a second. But Harvey, yesterday when you and I were talking, or we tried to talk, it was your daddy that was sitting next to you. Now, is he not there this morning because he's absolutely knackered after the 15-mile hike? Is he in an ice bath at the moment? Is he getting a massage to try and make himself feel better?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, absolutely. So could you not have kept him going? I mean, you managed to do 15 miles yesterday and a sprint finish. Not Daddy, though.
Daddy couldn't do it, could he?
Daddy couldn't do it.
No. There we go. We're just looking at a couple of pictures of you making your way through the streets of Manchester yesterday. One other thing I've got to ask Harvey. You're a Man U fan. That's fine. We'll gloss over it. Who's your favourite at the moment?
Who's your favourite player?
Man United.
Who's your favourite player at Man United?
Luke Shaw.
Fair enough. Well, if he's watching, I'm sure he might want to see if he can help out and assist with the donations. So what's the next step then, Mum, Naomi? Are you going to wait for a while, get cracking on the playground just as soon as possible?
Yeah, I think in the next couple of months, everything's going to get started. So, yeah, hopefully not long to wait at all.
Well, look, as the father of a 6-year-old myself, the idea of taking him for a 15-mile hike, nah, never happening. So well done, Harvey. I'm really proud of you, mate. And I'm sure your mum and your dad and everyone else is too. So thank you so much for joining us. And well done, wee man. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Time to have a final look through the Sunday papers. With us to discuss them, the broadcasters and journalists Bidisha and Edward Adu. Guys, good to see you again, and I hope you don't mind. I was rather rude to our previous guest on the programme, young Harvey. I didn't give you guys the Just Giving page for that. It is Just Giving, Harvey-2-Old Trafford. They were trying to raise £3,000. They've raised £7,135. I'm sure any extra that could go their way will be gratefully received. But let's go to you first this hour, Bidisha. And we're talking again national insurance, tax rises, and whether or not the Tories are actually Thatcherite in tax cutting.
Well, you know what? The Chancellor Rishi Sunak and the PM Boris Johnson insist in today's Sunday Times. They've got lots of lovely pages in which they say they are indeed tax-cutting Conservatives, and they describe themselves as Thatcherites. It chills me to the bone that there'll be millennials who are watching today that don't know what being a Thatcherite is. They can Google it. Anyway, this is about the controversial £12 billion hike in national insurance. Lots of people, both within and without the Conservative Party, had been very critical and wary about this proposed move because, of course, inflation is at a 30-year high. Now, inflation, for a quick economics primer, it's the rate at which prices are rising. And we know that ordinary households, I love that phrase, it's a very political phrase, ordinary households, all households are under pressure right now because of massive rises in food bills and energy bills because of all the things that we've been reporting out over the last few years. Now, what is the 1-point-something% rise going to translate to? If you're earning around £20,000 a year, you'll pay around £89 more. If you're earning, lucky enough for you, £100,000 a year, you'll be paying around £1,000 more in your taxes, which you do from April to April. So these rises are going to come in from the first week of April onwards. And I have to say that I'm pretty much on the side of the critics. I do understand, of course, that after the few years that we've been through, not just to do with COVID, there are massive challenges to everything within Britain's economic system. Within this article, they have used the time-honoured phrase, there is no magic money tree. So the reason behind this hike is pretty obvious. The government needs money.
I mean, there was no magic money tree apart from all the quantitative easing we've been doing over the past couple of years. Edward, let's talk about the lead story for The Observer, however, and a criticism of Boris Johnson's levelling up strategy coming from, and I have to say this, you know, Lisa Nandy, who, frankly, was talking about this a couple of years before the Tories started.
Well, Neil, this is a bit, it's somewhat confusing because we'll be talking about the NI hikes, and this is the government saying we want to give 20 cities across the country money as part of the levelling up. Now, a press release circulated and it popped up somewhere from Michael Gove's department saying 1.5 billion brownfield fund will be circulated to different cities and towns. Now, they've only managed to name two places, Sheffield and Wolverhampton. Now, they say that it will benefit housing, leisure, business and sustainable, lots of things around the community. Now, skeptics, a lot of people who are skeptical about this are saying, was this done because of what's been going on with the whole Partygate saga and obviously Operation Big Dog? And as you say, Lisa Nandy has said that the government has been caught out trying to spin that extra money. But in actual fact, when looking into the piece, it's not new funds. It's funds which were allocated by the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, in the budget last year. So when the government were contacted by the Observer, they backtracked and said, in actual fact, it was part of the spending review, was funds released by the Chancellor. But it's just the timing of this. I mean, it's in terms of allocating new money to as part of the agenda of levelling up, it's great news for some, but it's just the spin around it, which I think a lot of people are concerned about, that in actual fact, it's not new funds.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair point. Patricia, take us inside the Sunday Telegraph and tell me just a little bit more about what the paper describes as the collateral damage of COVID restrictions.
Yes, I think we should be very cautious around this article simply because it is a sign of the beginning phase of us looking into creating research around the true impact on health and social welfare of the lockdowns, the pandemic, the last 2 years. The argument here is that there has been an up to quadruple increase in deaths of people who had treatable conditions, so not talking about palliative care, people who would have been going into their local GP or their hospital regularly to be treated during the pandemic time, but because of the pandemic and because of the strain on the NHS and the disruption of normal healthcare practices, have had all of that very vital treatment delayed. There are some quite shocking and horrifying examples within the article about people who, under the first lockdown in particular, died in their own homes, and because they were out of their usual mix of being in touch with social carers, friends and family, were not discovered for days or weeks on end. I think the takeaway from this, because of course the coroner's reports have to prove that had it not been for the lockdown and the disruption to the NHS, these people wouldn't have died. And that causal relationship, that's a legal issue. It has to be very precise. The sign is, for me, that we are now looking back on the last 2 years and assessing the cost in terms of physical health and mental health.
Do you know what? Let's try and raise the nation's spirits a little bit and end on some slightly more positive notes. Edward, your final story is brilliant. Inside the Sun. Now, we all get a little bit annoyed with the announcements that come over the tannoy sometimes. Perhaps not this one, though.
So this is a funny story about the article. It refers to boozy women, which in a sense is sexist, but it's a group of ladies, I would like to put it mildly and put it in that context, were on a train and the announcer asked if anybody had a corkscrew, and I'm not sure whether apparently somebody came to their aid with a Swiss knife, but it's just been on a train. And you know, when I travelled regularly on trains across the country and just expecting an announcer to say, bing bong, has anybody got a corkscrew? And I can just imagine some other passengers thinking, hang on a minute, is this announcer for real? But it's just a funny story. And it's just something that, you know, it's great to hear, because for a long time, we haven't been able to travel because of restrictions and for people going out and enjoying themselves. And they managed to make this story happen.